Okay, well I have 2 p.m. Central Time right now, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. Welcome everyone, my name is Lainey Castle and I serve as a project director with the ALA Public Programs Office. I have the good fortune of overseeing the Bridging Cultures bookshelf on Muslim Journeys here at ALA, and I would like to thank you for joining us for today's session, which focuses on planning successful public library programs that highlight Islamic history and culture, and sharing those plans in the form of an application for the bookshelf grant. Our goal today is to encourage and support all of you in planning your applications in order to bring this terrific initiative to your communities. This session is presented by programminglibrarian.org, which is a resource website of the ALA Public Programs Office, and it is sponsored by the National Endowment for the Humanities. We are extremely grateful to NEH for developing and supporting the Bridging Cultures bookshelf, as well as for their ongoing generous support of libraries. Before we get started, I would just like to set out some very basic information about communication here in the online classroom. First, please do not use the general instant message feature to pose technical questions. If you are experiencing a problem, you should send a private message to the technical expert, Gwendolyn Prowitz. You can just mouse over her name at the left of your screen and select private chat, start private chat, excuse me. Next, we will have a Q&A period after the main presentation, but in order to keep the program on track, we ask that you save your questions for the presenters until the very end. And finally, if you experience technical difficulties during the session, don't panic. The complete presentation is being recorded and will be available for download next week. Now, I would like to offer overview information about the Bridging Cultures Bookshelf Grant Program. Then I will introduce our presenters so that they can share their own thoughts, ideas, and experiences hosting programs about Islamic culture in their own libraries, and then we'll open everything up for Q&A. I'm just going to take one moment here to take a look in the chat box and make sure mostly everyone can hear. I think they can. Okay. So, the Muslim Journeys Bookshelf is a collection development and programming grant that will provide 1,000 public, academic, and community college libraries with a selection of books and films chosen by scholars, librarians, and other humanities educators and program experts. These materials were chosen with a view to familiarizing the American public with the cultural heritage of Islamic civilizations around the world. In order to receive this collection, you must submit an online application via www.programminglibrarian.org/muslimjourneys by October 25th. The minimum requirements are simple. Each library that receives the collection must plan and present a single public program that introduces the books and the Muslim Journeys themes to the community. Libraries must also add the books to their circulating collections. There are many options for the types of programs that you can plan in order to participate in the grant. We have some ideas on our website. Ooh, I'm in the wrong page here. Okay, we have some ideas on our website. They appear under the Resources tab, as you can see up at the top. And our presenters are going to offer some thoughts and ideas for you to consider as well. For a simple grant overview, you can click the Free Books for Libraries button, which appears at the left of the homepage of the website. Next, successful applicants will receive 25 books, 3 documentary films that include public performance rights, a 1-year subscription to Oxford Islamic Studies Online, and access to a great deal of program support materials that has been created for libraries and librarians especially. Detailed information about the collection is online, and as you can see from this page, the collection materials have been organized by theme. The themes appear, let me see if I can use this clicker, right here. American Stories, Connected Histories, Literary Reflections, Pathways of Faith, and Points of View. And then we have a few things that fall under Art and Architecture. So the materials are organized by theme, but you're not required to focus on any specific theme in your programs if you don't wish to do so. The Bookshelf Awards will be announced in January, and programs should take place in libraries during calendar year 2013. Right after awards are announced in January, ALA and NEH will open a second grant opportunity. That will offer 125 of the participating libraries a $4,500 grant to present scholar-led reading and discussion programs that focus on select books in the collection. This grant opportunity will follow ALA's Let's Talk About It program model, and more information will be available in January. Wendy, if you could launch that survey for me, that would be great. We're going to get a survey up on the screen just to get an idea of who here in the classroom is familiar with the Let's Talk About It program model. So if you could let us know if you are familiar with it, if you have participated before, or if you're just totally unfamiliar with it, that would be helpful to see. We'll allow just another couple minutes here, a couple seconds here for the response. So it looks like we have a good number of people who are not familiar with this. Just as a point of reference, you can go to programminglibrarian.org/LTAI, and that will give you all the background information that you may need to know about that program model. That is not required for the bookshelf. I mention this now only as something to consider for those who may be on the fence about applying for the bookshelf collection, as it is a prerequisite for the second grant opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and just close this survey. So with that overview out of the way, it is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers. First, we're going to hear from Terry Lynn Chun. Terry Lynn is the Public Programming and Community Outreach Manager for Multnomah County Library in Portland, Oregon, where she oversees arts, cultural, and educational programs for children, families, and adults for the 19 libraries in the system. She is the immediate past chair of ALA's Public and Cultural Programs Advisory Committee and a member of the Spectrum Advisory Committee. After her presentation, Terry Lynn will pass the microphone over to Tim Grimes. Tim is the Manager of Community Relations and Marketing at the Ann Arbor District Library in Michigan. His presentation will touch on his experiences working on interfaith and religious programming, working with community partners to do that effectively, and hosting viewing and discussion programs, as well as lecture series and panels in his library. Both Terry Lynn and Tim have been involved in this project for more than a year, assisting ALA and NEH by hosting pilot programs in their libraries last fall. These pilots involved reading and discussion programs on select titles being considered for placement on the bookshelf, so they have some experience working with this content already. So without further ado, Terry Lynn, I will open the floor up to you.
Hi, Lainey, and hi to everybody else. Thank you so much for coming to the webinar today. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you today about book groups programming in general and our experience with the pilot Muslim Journeys program. Just thought I would, again, as Lainey says, I am the Programming and Community Outreach Manager for Multnomah County Library in Portland, Oregon. I thought I'd start by giving you a little overview of our community and might give you an idea why these programs work so well for us. We are the largest public library in the state of Oregon. We serve a population area of about 737,902 people. Our demographics, we are predominantly white and have a 10% Hispanic or Latino population, 6% Asian population, and about a 5.6% Black population. We have approximately 425,000 library card holders. And I just wanted to put some pictures up for you to see what our central library looks like. It's in our Echo roof, which we're also very proud of. So you'd have something nice to look at while I talk to you about the library. We are the smallest geographic county in the state of Oregon, but we are also the most populous. We're home to about 1/5 of the state's population. And our largest city is Portland, although we also serve Gresham, Fairview, and Troutdale cities as well. As Lainey said, we have 19 locations. Last year we circulated 22.7 million items, and our circulation is second only to New York Public Library. So we are a very busy library. And just so you can see, where that tiny little red spot up there is us. I wanted to talk to you, so the two things I'm going to be talking to you today are about the reading and discussion programs, and then, as I said, our personal experience with the Muslim Journeys pilot. We love reading and discussion programs. We have 27 ongoing book discussion groups. Those are called page turners, and they are funded by our Friends of the Library organization. We recently did a Read the Classics program, which was very much structured the same way. They were scholar-led discussions of 4 or 5 titles that were all very thematically related. We have been the recipient of several Let's Talk About It program grants, and we've enjoyed every single one of them. And we are also in our 11th year, coming up on our 11th year of Everybody Reads, which is our One City, One Book project. So we do quite a lot of reading and discussion programs. We've found that they are great at supporting our strategic goals and priorities, which recently were providing opportunities for civic engagement, and our current priorities of being a leading advocate for reading and champion reading for all. So reading and discussion programs really fit in with what we're trying to do. We recently just started a Page Turners to Go program earlier this year, and that's where we provide book sets for checkout so that people that are doing their own book discussion groups can have materials. Let's see. One thing about all of our programs is that we provide the books. We believe in making it really easy for people to participate in these programs, and we believe by bring them back non-catalog copies of the books, it encourages participation, and we think it's working. We have our book groups range between 8 and 20 people every time. As I said, we have 27 of those going on, and we have been doing this for decades now, and the model seems to work really, really well for us. Our most recent Let's Talk About It program was the Making Sense of the American Civil War, and I saw from the poll that not a lot of people are familiar with this program, but we found it to be really great, and for a lot of reasons. We like the Let's Talk About It format program because it provides high quality reading materials that have been really carefully chosen and are very relevant to the topics. We like the model of the scholar-led discussions. That's one of the things that is most rated highly when we do evaluation on this program. We appreciate the variety of materials, both fiction and nonfiction. This last Let's Talk About It included articles and essays as well. The funding allowed us to provide those bring them back copies for people, and people really appreciated that. Again, it made it really easy for them to participate. And I think, when I talk about this program, I was so, it was very heartwarming to hear people's responses of it. It was a 5-part series. It was a big ask for people, so to have them come and participate in all 5 parts. I recruited 75 participants for the program, and throughout the entire series, I probably had about 80% of those people make it to 4 or more of those sessions. So I think that says a lot about the quality of the program, and what people, how they really respond to this type of program. And I thought I'd just put some comments up from our group to let you see what the response was to this. People got a lot out of it at the end. They were very kind about saying, how much they appreciated the program. The scholar-led discussion, again, was really, I think, filled out the program and made it, more enriching for people. As I said, the readings were great. We had an anthology, which included original documents and essays, and then we also had a novel and also a nonfiction book. So again, a wide array of reading materials that made the subject matter very accessible to people. The group was really engaged. They had wonderful, very respectful discussions. It's an opportunity for people who have an interest in a specific topic to learn more about it in a very easy way, accessible way, and to learn from each other. What's great about being a participant in a project like Let's Talk About It is that you are connected to the other libraries that are also participating. As one of our participants said, knowing that the series is nationwide makes me feel connected to my country and engaged in citizenship at a higher level. We share a lot, all the participating libraries share a lot about best practices, and we support each other. So you have a really great community to fall back on if you have questions about putting on a project like this. We were really fortunate last year to be one of the pilot sites for the Muslim Journeys program, and we're very excited for this project and excited to participate, and for a couple of reasons. there was such an enthusiastic response to and then participation in the pilot in our community. There are changing demographics of our community despite the predominantly white community we have here. We are seeing an influx of people from other countries, and there is an interest in learning more about our neighbors. For example, we have 101,000 foreign-born in our community, and these are the areas that they're coming from. So we are seeing an influx of people of the Muslim faith and seeing them in our local neighborhoods, in our schools, in our grocery stores. In Multnomah County, there are 6 Muslim congregations, about 2,100 adherents, and 14 Islamic centers in Oregon. So it's definitely, we're starting to see a change in our population. When I asked the participants of the program why they wanted to do this, they said that they wanted to get to know their neighbors. They were seeing different people in the community. They wanted to understand and have a greater respect and understanding for different cultures. And then when I told them that the books that we were going to be reading, the 2 test books that we read, they were really excited for those as well. To recruit for the Muslim Journeys Project, I put out a call to our page turners regular book groups, and I also put out a call to our volunteer group. And within 24 hours, I had all of my spaces filled. I think that that's because, as I said, people have a thirst for knowledge and wanting to know who the newest additions to our community are. One of the most heartwarming things is I think those sessions, we only had 3 sessions together. By the end of the session, people wanted to continue seeing each other and talking about these issues. They were excited at the potential for having a project like this come to our library, and they encouraged me to also apply for the grant if and when it came up. And so we are looking forward to it. It's a model that we really have good experience with, and are excited to see this specific topic covered in this way that we think will make a big difference in communities all around the country. So that's all I have right now. I'm going to turn it over to Tim now.
Hi everybody, I'm Tim Grimes. I'm in charge of marketing and programs for the Ann Arbor District Library. I've actually been planning events and publicity for AADL for over 15 years. I'm here to discuss programming opportunities, and I can tell you they don't have to be expensive or hard to do. I use a lot of people and resources from within my community to produce well-attended, cost-conscious programs with wonderful content. And we have tons and tons and tons of programs here at the Ann Arbor District Library. In the past 2 to 3 years, we've had several events specifically dealing with Muslim culture. I'm going to talk about programming in general in this session, and I'm also going to use these programs that I just mentioned as I talk as examples, and I'll be showing some film clips. The programs were American Daughters, Being Muslim in America. That was in the spring of 2010. American Sons, from the male perspective, Reflections on Being Muslim in America. That was in November of 2010. And then a very interesting program called Can I Get Some Respect? Flashbacks and Controversies on Religious Freedom, which we held here in January 2011. All of these sessions were videotaped. You can view the entire contents for yourselves if you go to aadl.org/video. Now, those of you that received this grant will receive a wonderful selection of material to add to your library's collection, and an excellent way to market the collection is through programming. Programming, I believe, is an outstanding way to get publicity and buzz going in your community. You don't want this material to be on the shelf. You want the community to be actively talking about the collection, checking it out, and a great way to create some buzz is through programming. And look for programs that speak to the community. When I first started on this job, I would put out a press release that said this was new at the library or that was new at the library. Sometimes it would get reporters interested and sometimes not. But the more I added events that spoke to the community, the more coverage I would get and the more, of course, attendees at the events. And when I began this job years ago, the library didn't have a lot of programming. We had a noontime monthly concert, a noontime monthly author talk, and some youth programs. We began then to do some Black History Month celebrations with different performers, but one year I asked one of our regular patrons if she'd like to help me out with planning Black History Month events. She was so very, very pleased. And this member of the community led me to a whole slew of community resources and partners, churches, Black sororities, historical organizations that were all very excited to participate. They really wanted to. We had an exhibit in the library hung by many of these organizations about their history in the community. We made a documentary with several elders talking about life here in Ann Arbor and nearby Ypsilanti. And we had a panel discussion with people talking about their memories. We all of a sudden had excellent media coverage, and these organizations had built-in audiences that came out for these library events. So we had an excellent attendance, wonderfully interesting content at really a low cost that involved the community. Another example, we had a World War II film series here at the library from a grant with ALA. We wanted to have some additional programs, so I located several veterans organizations and people that lived in Ann Arbor during that period of history. A mother that talked about what it was like having her son at war. An excellent panel, great events that complemented the series and brought it to the local level. Now, I'm talking a lot about Ann Arbor because that's where I currently live, and we have a really rich amount of community resources here. But I also grew up in a very, very small town in New Hampshire where I know there were a rich amount of clubs, organizations, churches that I knew I could recruit if I was still there. It's a very, very small town, but I was involved in several civic organizations there myself. So I really believe no matter where you live, there are organizations that you can call upon. You just can't be shy about asking and really let your imagination run. Now, what's happened now at the Ann Arbor District Library is that most of our adult events are community partner driven. We work with local organizations and individuals to plan events, just like I did way back years ago with that one patron. But now partners contact us for programs. So while it's not required for this grant, it's an excellent idea to involve some organization in the community as a partner. They can help organize the program, they can help locate the speakers, they can help with publicity. And what's in it for them? Well, our library mentions them generously in press releases, library ads, marketing efforts. We allow the partner organization to have a table outside the event so that they can publicize their organization as people walk in to attend. And usually the host, when it's me or one of the hosts here at the library, will welcome people at the beginning of the event, and the partner then can actually do the introductions. It's another way to get the word out about their organization. Now, in just a second, I'm going to show a clip from one of the programs I mentioned, Can I Get Some Respect? Flashpoints and Controversies on Religious Freedom. And you can see that I'm going to be there. I'm going to introduce only. The organization representative, Chuck, is going to explain very well the reasons for the panel. He does it very well, better than I could. He'll mention all the area churches and city council that were involved in planning this particular event. And he mentions other activities that his organization was involved with that are coming up. He really involves the community in this introduction that in a way that I might not be able to. So this is just an example of how to use a community partner, and we'll show clip number 1. My name is Tim Grimes. I'm the manager of community relations and marketing here at the Ann Arbor District Library. And thank you for coming to this event. It's one of many events we hold here at the library. Please check out our website at aadl.org to find out about our other events, January and February and throughout the year. And here to tell you more about what's going to happen this evening is from the Interfaith Council of Peace and Justice is Chuck Warpahusky. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim, and I want to start off by just thanking the library, both Tim and the rest of the library staff, the video crew that's working behind the scenes, and everybody who helped to bring this event together tonight. What got this started, do y'all remember back last September, August, September of last year? seemed like part of our country had gone a little bit crazy for a while. There was a big spike in anti-Muslim rhetoric, anti-Muslim harassment, vandalism, and even violence. There was a cab driver in New York who was stabbed for his religious identity. There was a number of vandalisms at mosques across the country. And even here in Michigan, just an hour away in East Lansing, a burned and desecrated Quran was left outside of a mosque there. And as this came up, members of our community within Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, Interfaith Roundtable, and others said, we need a way to say that this is not the community, this is not the kind of environment we want to create in our country and in our town. And so we worked with allies in the ACLU and other groups to start a response. And we had a number of things we did. We asked local clergy to preach and teach about religious freedom and tolerance. We had educational events to help overcome the misinformation about people of different faiths and backgrounds. And we also asked our city council to pass a resolution affirming that we do want to be a community of respect and tolerance and religious freedom. But as we began that conversation about the resolution from City Council, a question came up and said, well, these are nice words on paper, but how do we operationalize them? How do we make sure that this has an impact beyond the City Council chambers? And that's when the idea of using Religious Freedom Day as a chance to continue the conversation came from. As this seemed to be a good opportunity for us to move forward, to continue the discussion. There are a number of things we're doing in addition to the panel tonight. I'm going to ask George Lambertese to tell us about one of those, just briefly. George Lambertese is the coordinator of the Interfaith Roundtable for Washtenaw County.
Then George does go on to list many other events that the organization is doing. Now, I thought Chuck did a very nice job of stating reasons why the program was important in a way that probably I couldn't. And if you notice at the beginning of the clip, we mentioned his organization there. We mentioned him multiple times in press releases and other promotions. It's really a win-win for their organization as well as the library. We're giving them publicity, and they're giving us all of the resources to help create the program. Now, I think it's a wonderful idea to also have a moderator or keynote speaker if you do have a panel discussion program, or a scholar who can enlighten the audience about some of the topics. I often locate scholars from the local universities, or sometimes I look on the web for authorities or authors on a certain subject in my surrounding area or neighboring communities. I just take the time to do that, and we offer a small honorarium, and they're usually very, very happy to participate as an individual lecturer, having the entire session devoted to their talk, or as part of a panel. And I'm going to show in a second an example from American Sons. It's an example of a scholar who the community organization recruited, discussing the early history of Muslims in America. Now, this example is someone who the person actually was local, very, very, very impressive, but I didn't know them. The community partner identified them and recruited them. So here is a clip from American Sons, clip number 2.
That same year, Dr. Jackson was named one of the 500 most influential Muslims in the world by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center in Amman, Jordan, and was also recognized as one of the 10 leading experts on Islam in America. It's hard to do any better than that. So please help me welcome Dr. Jackson.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I'm told that I have about 10 minutes to try and to introduce the whole topic of Islam in America. Anybody who knows me knows that it usually takes me longer than 10 minutes to even say my name. But I'm going to try and to do so in a way that will be coherent. The history of Islam in America is actually a quite long history. At the same time, it is a somewhat uneven history. the presence of Muslims in America goes back to the very beginning, not simply of the Republic, but actually of the settlement of America as part of the New World. We know that among the population of both slaves who were brought from Africa and even some of the indentured servants who came along with the Spanish and others, included a population of Muslims. And this goes back to the very early centuries. The numbers of Muslims would increase somewhat after that as the importation of slaves from Africa reached full tide in the 18th century. And so we have the presence of Muslims quite early on in America. And this is not simply mythical. It's a very interesting phenomenon in that we actually have Arabic manuscripts that are survivals from African slaves who were actually in America in the 18th and 19th centuries. And there have actually been scholars who have worked on some of these manuscripts. So their presence is not simply mythological. We have tangible, concrete evidence of their presence.
And keynote speakers and scholars are really not difficult to find. I look at local colleges or community colleges. Again, I offer a small honorarium. The lecturers can do a lecture by themselves or as part of a panel. The panel can be a mix of experts and some ordinary people. Again, I don't find scholars or subject experts difficult to find. I've made a lot of cold calls to university departments and said, hey, do you have someone that could just speak on this topic? And usually they're very enthusiastic and will help me. It's just making the call and not being shy. I now want to show my favorite clip and my actual favorite type of program. My favorite program is one where you use individuals in your community just discussing their experience. And following this clip, you're also going to see the beginning of the moderator from American Daughters making a few comments about the panel, while the staff and community organization assistants, they're going to collect comment cards from the audience. So watch for that, and I'll have more about that later. But here's a clip from American Daughters where a wonderful panelist, a local citizen, describes what her life is like. Clip number 3.
Unlike the first 3 speakers, I was born and raised Muslim my whole life. I was born to both parents from Egypt. They immigrated here back in the 70s, and I was born in 79, so you can figure out how old I am. So my whole life I grew up in a home where I saw my parents praying. We ate food that was halal, kosher for Muslims, I guess. But I lived in a community where there were not very many Muslims close by. I went to public school. I played sports at school and outside of school. And it wasn't until the early 90s when we moved from New Jersey to Michigan, to Canton, Michigan, where I had a large Muslim community around me. I went to high school at Plymouth Salem, and at that time, although right now there's a huge Muslim population there and there's a Muslim Student Association, at that school there was a handful of Muslims, and we did pray Jummah Friday together at school, and that was about it at school. I was married young by choice. I met my husband at the local mosque. We didn't have a relationship going on for too long, but my husband proposed the summer after my senior year of high school, and I thought about it, and I knew him because I saw him at the mosque all the time, and we planned activities together for our local youth group, and I prayed to God to guide me in making the right decision, and I felt very, very comfortable getting married to him. We both had older siblings that were not yet married, but we went ahead and we got married at the ages of 19 and 20, and we were engaged for a year before that. My husband was not of Arab background, he was of Indian background. So there were some differences. I mean, there's different clothing and different expectations, a lot of cultural things around the actual marriage ceremony. But, you know, there were some issues. We worked our way through them, and both of our families get along very well, which is really good for us. And, you know, I love wearing the Indian clothes, and when my husband wants Indian food, we go over to his mother. Because I think it's the hardest kind of cooking that there is. Yeah. You know, when I saw the topic for this presentation, the thought that kept coming to my mind about, you know, what is it like for me being Muslim in America, I kept thinking, well, you know what, I feel like I'm such an ordinary person. The issues I face are probably the same issues that my neighbor faces. You know, work-life balance and, you know, worrying about my kids and, you know, who they're playing with and how they're, you know, going to grow up to be, you know, time management, that's always an issue for me. Getting my kids to school on time and their principal is just sitting 2 seats down. So, you know, it's a huge challenge for me every morning. And that's, you know, both my husband and I work. We actually work together now in private practice. And, you know, keeping our lawn up, you know, up to par with the neighbors, that's a big issue. Dealing with my children's sibling rivalry. I've got 3 children now. In many ways, I can relate to Everyone Loves Raymond, because I feel like my parents live down the street and my husband's parents live about 10 minutes away. And they're always coming over, and, you know, we love them. But we've got, I mean, I feel so American and I feel so ordinary. So that was something that I really wanted to emphasize today. I am Muslim, and in some ways being Muslim shapes every hour of my day, but it really doesn't make me that much different from my neighbors.
Thank you. So if we could once again thank these 4 phenomenal women for speaking today. It was really nice what they had to share. And as you notice, from 4 different perspectives as well. I don't know if you caught this, but Sister Baina and Sister Samaya and I are all 3 converts, and Sister Sharina and Sister Mona grew up Muslim in America. So hopefully that gave you a nice sense of the diversity that we have in our community. Do we have any questions?
Okay. This morning they were late.
I don't notice any. I don't look. Even up on all that.
Okay, here's a general question.
Okay, I really do like this format. Just ordinary people telling their story. It's very, very compelling. Now, you just saw the beginning of the Q&A section. Q&As are an important part of these events. We always take questions from the audience after the panel or lecturer speaks. And again, when we have community leaders, the community leader for the panel is the moderator, or we just assist to make sure these events run smoothly. So we really try to let the community really be the driver of these. Now, in the case of this event and some others that we do, we sometimes use cards for comments. It's a good way to sort through like questions, but we always take questions from the audience as well, verbally. I'm going to show a brief final clip. In this clip, which is just the ending of the program that we just saw, you can see some of the questions that were being asked the moderator will group them in leftover questions. And she mentions that answers might be able to be addressed on the community partner website. That's a good way to end. Questions can still be asked and addressed through the community partner. This is a good example of the type and subject areas of questions that can come up. And this is also how we end our program. So
Okay, I think actually we have some very large questions up here, very interesting questions about human rights, about, let's see, inferiority issues, conflicts between Sunnis and Shias, and questions about the Middle East and France. And maybe we ran out of time though, so maybe we can provide some answers to this, Grace, for the ICPJ website or something. But I would like to ask you at this time, I would like to thank everybody for coming out on a Thursday night, and I'd like to ask you to be sure to fill out the evaluations on your chairs. I think you have 2 of them. One for, one of them, okay. And if anybody didn't get one by chance, we have extras, just let us know if you need one. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
okay, and we just saw a brief clip of the moderator in action. I do want to stress the importance of a moderator that can really listen and make the flow of the conversation go smoothly, especially for the Q&A session. This is also very important for film and discussion events. ALA and NEH have provided some excellent documentaries for programming that will come with some rich background material. I think the important thing is to locate a moderator. Ours are never library staff, but from the community, radio show hosts, teachers, etc., who can listen and keep the conversation going. Again, I've never found it difficult to recruit people from the community to help be moderators for films or panel. And in the case of the film and discussion programs, ALA and NEH will provide a lot of wonderful background material. The scholar will or moderator will introduce, talk about the background material, we show the film, and then most of it at the end is the discussion led by the community leader or scholar. And again, just picking someone who can moderate the flow of the discussion and let everyone be heard. So in conclusion, these are just a few examples. Programming can really help bring your project alive. I would say just use your community as much as you can. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you, Terry Lynn, as well. And thanks to all of you for being here and bearing with us with any audio difficulties. Before I open things up for questions, I would just like to mention that ALA staff will send an email out on Tuesday of next week, and that will have a link to access an archived version of today's session, and we will also send you a link to take a brief survey about this, and we hope that you can share your feedback with us. It should take just a moment. And now we have, looks like about 15 minutes remaining for questions. I wanted to throw out one that came in earlier from Ray. That question is for Terry Lynn, and that is, do you check out and bring the books back, or just go with an honor system? I'll leave that for Terry Lynn to answer.
For our book groups, they are on the honor system. We find that for regular attendees, they come in, they pick up the book for the next coming up session, and then when they come to that discussion, they return the books then. We do, not really a checkout, but we just do little reminders to people that, to bring those back, to have the full set, to be able to continue discussions with other groups. And we find we probably have about a 70% return rate on those, and sometimes people, it's mostly that they misplace them or they forget them, and then we'll come back and have them, a couple sessions later, very apologetic that they've forgotten about them. But I think they see the value of keeping those circulating among the different groups, and they do a really good job of bringing them back.
Thank you, Terry Lynn. I'm going to go ahead and take the next question from Michelle. The typical ratio of grants awarded usually is different from project to project. For this particular initiative, we have 1,000 awards to give, which is a lot. At this point, we are much more in a situation of needing applications than turning people away. It's certainly possible that that will turn around in the next 2 months, but at this point, it is looking like there will be a very good chance of people getting the collection if they apply and submit actually eligible applications. Let's see what's next. Suggestions on how to do the narrative statements. I'm going to come back to that one in just a minute and go ahead and throw Colleen's question out to you, Tim, to respond to.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
This question is from Colleen Letty, and that is for Tim. How do you know if the moderator will do a good job? How do you screen your moderators?
I think, again, they're usually people that I know, people that I just have, again, I used a radio talk show host who's just used to talking to people and a good communicator. And, oh, I see, I can see where it is. Small library in New Hampshire. So I've used people on the radio, teachers, people that are just used to running a classroom or letting people talk, because I think that's the biggest thing. Someone who's not just going to overwhelm the conversation, but let people have their say and is used to people working with with diverse backgrounds and diverse opinions. So teachers, again, I've used a radio talk show host, people that are used to listening to others and having people communicate.
Thank you, Tim. And if I could ask you and Diego, if either of you have a link to access those video clips that you used that's on the web, if you could post that URL in the chat, that would be helpful. I think a few people asked for that, and I know I don't have it handy. And then we can move on to the next question from Corrine. Corrine says, I am from a small library in New Hampshire. What advice do you have for a small library with a community that is not diverse? How do I effectively market to my community and convince them that this topic is relevant for them? I'll let Tim go for that.
I'm from a small library in New Hampshire. Again, that's why I think programming can really be a key element, because when I have a certain topic, I try to think, okay, what are the different things that would make people come to the library for this? I think music. So I try to find some music component. I have a local musicians come in. You could even find them at the local high school, for example. Food is another one. I've had restaurants come in and again, it's publicity for them, give food samples. So we had a whole community read one time focused on Leo Africanus. We had a high school student who wanted to come in and do a play. He just got very excited. He was one of the people who was involved in selecting Leo Africanus as a book to do that year, and he got a bunch of kids together and they did a little play based on the beginning of Leo Africanus. We had an area musician come and do some Middle Eastern music. But I know with this collection, for example, they have Rumi, wonderful poet. It's a good example for a local community theater, a local church to do a reading from Rumi. Another example is Arabian Nights for children. You know, some of those books. If you just think of all the different ways that all the food, music, art, having someone talk about art. Someone in your community might not be particularly interested in the topic per se, but they might be an art enthusiast. They might be a food enthusiast. They might enjoy music, and having a broad expanse of programs and surrounding that subject will bring people in. Once they're there, then you can talk about the collection. Here's this wonderful collection, and if they enjoy the program, they'll want to check out some of the material. And also having that wide spectrum of events. And again, these are all different restaurants, things like that. Don't have to be that costly. Will get you more publicity with local media. And also having the local theater group, having the local high school, they'll also help spread the word. So I just try to be as diverse as possible in my programs.
Thank you, Tim. And now I'll get to Leslie's question about the narrative statements. Leslie, my advice to you would be just to be as specific as possible and complete in your answers to the questions that are provided. Whenever possible, the reviewers are usually looking to reference to specific items within the collection. So if you were to, for example, take Tim's suggestion of using the Rumi book to do a poetry reading as your required program, you would mention that book and make it clear that that is going to be your focus. If someone is going to screen a film, you want to mention the film that you are going to screen. Just reference to the collection materials is important, and complete answers where you really address what you're going to do and all the nuances that are presented in the question. That would be my best advice to you in preparing a successful narrative. I see another question from Nancy. One copy of each item, yes. Two things to say about that. Many state humanities councils are participating in this project. They are receiving collections and support from the NEH. We don't have a final total yet on which states will be involved, but we know that a majority of state humanities councils will be involved, and they may provide support in a variety of different ways. One might include funding for books. We also are encouraging public libraries that are that have multiple branches to submit one application on behalf of all the branches in the system. And that will establish a collection across the library system. I know this is not terribly helpful to people in a rural area, but then you can use interlibrary loan to get multiple copies of the books and allow a little bit more access for reading and discussion. It looks like Diego is posting some access to the videos, which is fantastic. Oh, and Terry Lynn has a great suggestion, which is that they ask the Friends Group and the Library Foundations and sometimes some partners to purchase copies. You might also approach a bookstore and try to negotiate some kind of discount for library card holders so that they can purchase the book at a lower cost and come in to do a reading and discussion program. And again, I just do encourage anyone with a larger system to submit an application on behalf of multiple sites for that. Let's see if we have any other questions. I don't see any right now, and we can continue leaving the chat box open and take those questions as they become available. So just a reminder that we will get out an email next Tuesday with an access to the archive and a link to a survey. And I will also go ahead and include these links that Diego is sending so that everyone has access to those directly if you would like them. Can school libraries apply? No. This opportunity is just for public libraries, academic libraries, and community college libraries, and then state councils. So interested, school libraries, perhaps high school libraries, I would assume, would be the only ones with any level of interest in these materials. We just encourage you to reach out to your public library, encourage them to submit an application, and partner with the school on any activities that you think might be of interest if you are representing a school library in any way. In the application for multiple locations, must programs be presented at each library site? Yes, they must. So, for example, you could have, screen a film at each site that gets the bookshelf collection. If you are with a system that has 10 sites and only 5 of them would be willing to do a program, you could just apply on behalf of those 5 libraries that are willing to participate in that way. But we do encourage people to do this if they possibly can, because you can build the core collection and be poised to do, one book, one community reads, or larger reading and discussion series. And by doing that, the only requirement really is that you have that single program. And a poetry reading should be relatively simple to wrangle for a library, or a local panel, as Tim mentioned, is also a terrific idea. Let's see, from April, can an academic library partner with a local school organization? Absolutely. I'm not sure if everyone saw the changes to the grant that came out last week, but working with a partner is actually no longer even required. We, of course, encourage you to do that. It's for the best for, extending your reach and presenting the highest quality possible programs, but it is not required. So absolutely, an academic library can partner with a school organization. That would be terrific. From Corrine, is population a factor in successful applications? It is not. The language that is provided in the guidelines is that the final award decisions are made by the NEH chairman. So it's possible that if we are overwhelmed with applications, and there would be an area of the country that is totally unrepresented, that a handful of applications might have be given a leg up. But no, they don't look at equal distribution by library type, by budget, by geography, none of those things. It's really not a factor at all. Next question, Jacqueline, Rumi poetry translator Coleman Barks is an internationally recognized scholar. Any reason his translation was not chosen for this bookshelf? I know his work was considered, but that is really a question that I would have to put to our scholars. If that's something that you really do want to get a concrete answer on, you would need to send that to publicprograms@ala.org, and we would get that over to the NEH scholarship team to see if they could provide you with an answer. Next from Lori, detail about partnering organizations. On our website, under resources, I believe, there should be information that has just a list of types of organizations that might be a suitable partner. I know not everyone has access to, an interfaith council as Tim does. So there are some very, very basic suggestions as well as some more sophisticated suggestions, and we have general guidelines about that. And if you have specific questions that pertain to your application and your community, you can feel free to contact me, and the best way to do that is just via publicprograms@ala.org, and I can work with you on your application. Deborah, what cultures will be considered for future bookshelf grants? Under the Bridging Cultures theme, they do not have the next cultures set. I believe there's some consideration of Abrahamic religions, but none of that has been determined yet, and that's all dependent on what the NEH chairman decides. Colleen's question, yes, that is correct. You only need to host one live program in order to receive the bookshelf collection. That is absolutely right. The second phase, which is the Let's Talk About It phase, that provides a grant of up to $4,500, that is for a Let's Talk About It style programming, and that program involves 5 separate reading and discussion programs that are led by a scholar. Again, for this phase, only one program is required. A question from Jay, could a group of individual libraries within one county partner to request multiple applications, such as a system might? For us, the guiding rule is that there needs to be an authorizing official who can approve the submitted application. So that would be if there's a regional library system, some sort of other organization where someone could approve, that would be acceptable. If not, if you are all working together, we encourage you to submit separate applications, but use common narrative questions that describe completely how you will be working together to present programs in each location. That way you don't really have to reinvent the wheel, but you have authorization from the appropriate parties for each of the sites that would get the collection. I hope that makes sense. Looks like similar questions may be coming in. I'm going to release my mic in case Terry Lynn or Tim want to jump in with anything, and otherwise I'll keep an eye on the chat. Diane's question, the application seems to require description for Let's Talk About It programming. In other words, multiple programs. Could you please clarify? Apparently this is confusing, and I welcome any offline suggestions for how we might simplify this on the website. If you go to the homepage of the Muslim Journeys site and click the free books icon at the left, that will give you your most basic overview. No. it does not require Let's Talk About It programming. Under the Resources tab, Let's Talk About It program model, the model is described as is the One Book One community program, as our film viewing and discussion programs. I believe there are other suggestions about poetry programming, hosting a panel. None of those things are requirements. They are only suggestions. So you can feel free to use any of those suggestions for your required program or come up with something on your own for your community's application, but Let's Talk About It is absolutely not required. That grant opportunity will be under the second round of grants, which will open in January, and part of the reason that that libraries doing those programs will get $4,500 is so that they can purchase multiple copies of the books in order to provide their community members with everything they need to have a discussion all together about a common text. And that resource, that level of support, is not here during the bookshelf phase. So anyone who applies for the bookshelf and is doing Let's Talk About It programming, they will either be getting external funding through a state council, through a friends group, or some other funder, or they will be using interlibrary loan within their own system. That is really the only way for people to do that. ALA and NEH are not providing enough support for libraries to do Let's Talk About It programs during the bookshelf grant. A question from Julie: can academic libraries apply for the Let's Talk About It grants? Yes, absolutely. It will be open to academic, community college, and public libraries, so the same criteria, the same types of libraries that are eligible for the bookshelf. The prerequisite is that you are selected to receive a bookshelf grant. People who are not participating in the bookshelf phase are not eligible to apply for the Let's Talk About It funding. Pamela, that is a great question, and we did look that up. I know it's under $1,000. I want to say it's between $800 to $1,000, but if you send me an email message, I can confirm that for you. I just don't have it right in front of me. It's, again, between about $800 and $1,000, and that is based on the retail price of all the resources that are provided, excluding the subscription to Oxford Islamic Studies Online, because that pricing for a year subscription varies greatly based on the size of a library taking out the subscription. A question from Diane: does the one program need to relate to themes as ranked by the library applicant? No. We are asking for a ranking on themes just so we can get an idea about the level of interest by theme for the Let's Talk About It grant phase. So we're wondering if we're going to get lopsided interest in, say, American stories and less interest in pathways of faith. That is just for our planning purposes, and I believe the question does specify that it's for planning purposes. So no. You don't need to relate your programs. A question from Colleen: the scope of one program doesn't have to be very extensive. It could be one night film showing and discussion as opposed to series. Exactly. Absolutely, Colleen. If I were in a library myself, that is the program that I would choose to present. These films come with public performance rights. Our national scholars will be preparing an introduction to the film, a list of points for audience members to consider during their viewing experience, and a series of follow-up questions that will be basically open-ended discussion points that the librarian can use to generate a substantive discussion after the viewing. So in other words, everything that you need in order to present a live event with the public performance rights included. It should be completely prepackaged. It is wonderful and strongly encouraged for you to work with a scholar to present the film and to moderate a discussion, but it is not at all required, and a library with no other financial resources should be absolutely able to present a viewing and discussion program without doing any additional fundraising or speaker recruitment. we are really getting to the end of our time, so we'll just take maybe 2 more questions if we have them, and then I will put an email here so that we can just keep in touch if you have other questions. The films are available for preview. They are not, I believe that Islamic Art, Mirror of the Invisible World, the website is hot linked from our website, and I think there is a clip, but it's not the full film, unfortunately. The HBO documentary, oh, let me see. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not sure about access to that. So no, I'm afraid we don't have a preview. I've seen the films, though. They're terrific. Thank you so much to everyone for attending. And again, please contact me offline if I can answer any additional questions for you or if you need help planning an application. Thanks so much to Tim. Thank you so much, Terry Lynn, for your help sharing your own experiences and making these presentations. And as always, thanks to the NEH for helping us with this project and providing funding to get programs in libraries.